Hey everyone, GM,
GM.
what's going on? Thanks for coming to this NFT DAO panel. We don't have a ton of time, so let's dive right in. A DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. People from all over the world can pull together capital and make decisions to self-govern and also, direct other decisions on how to allocate that capital. There's a lot of different DAOs that exist, a lot of different NFT DAOs that exist in different corners of the NFT ecosystem. We have a bunch of awesome NFT DAOs here. So if you guys want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the DAO that you're repping today, that would be awesome.
So my name is Juan Delanto. I'm actually not Jameis Johnson. Jameis had to fly to San Francisco very last minute. I'm repping Pleaser DAO. And basically, we're our vision is to be the people's MoMA of the 21st century.
Hey everyone, I'm Aaron Wright. I pulled together a whole bunch of DAOs, a lot of DAOs in the NFT space, including Flamingo DAO, the LAO, Ready Player DAO. I've been helping support along with Red DAO, which is a digital fashion DAO, Dark Horse DAO, which is a Zed-run focused DAO, and Neon DAO, which is a metaverse DAO. So a whole bunch of DAOs, particularly in the NFT space.
I'm Alejandro. I'm representing NFT DAO. We are a collective syndicate that we collect, purchase, fractionalize, and invest in the NFT ecosystem across the board. And we were one of the first legally recognized DAOs from Wyoming. A big thanks to Aaron, Caitlin Long, and everybody else who made that happen this year. So let's give them a huge round of applause for that, guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Isaac. I'm representing Minty DAO and also a lot of DAOs in the Metacartel ecosystem. So Metacartel, DAO House, Raid Guild. So I work on a lot of DAO tooling frameworks, but what we do at Minty is try to bring DAO governance to IRL assets. So one of the DAOs we're launching is buying a warehouse full of whiskey to age it, launch a whiskey brand as a DAO, do all sorts of fun stuff that touches real life and connects with people in different ways.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks for the intros. I just wanted to add, if you guys want to come up and sit, there's about 10 seats available here. So if 10 people from back there want to come up, feel free. It just occurred to me that I didn't introduce myself. I work with Aaron at Tribute Labs and help with the general operations of all these awesome DAOs. So I guess just diving right in, some people here may be curious, how does one set up a DAO? How do you engage? How do you create one? How do you participate? Does anyone want to kind of speak to their respective DAOs, how it works, and just the general structure and how you set it up?
Yeah, I can start. I think for DAOs, usually you need a group of folks that are interested in a particular topic. They'll pool together capital in different ways, particularly in the NFT space, and then you kind of get moving, right? So most DAOs don't operate with top-down control. There's not usually, or at least ideally, a group of folks that are in charge of it. It's more bottom-up, so the community is making kind of collective decisions. And there's lots of different ways to do it. You can do it more YOLO, where you have no structuring related to it. We've put a little bit more structure around some of our DAOs to make sure that they can interact with more traditional folks that have capital, more traditional assets, et cetera. And then there's a lot of tech and tooling that you also may want to use in order to kind of get things moving. Snapshot, which is great to get governance or governance-related voting. There's different ways that you can manage kind of the collective treasury. Lots of people use Gnosis multisigs. Kind of more advanced tooling is some of the stuff that we're putting together through the Tribute DAO framework, which gives you a little bit more flexibility and more modularity in terms of the things that you want to do. And then, you're kind of off to the races. But what's amazing, I think, on DAOs is, Ethereum in particular has shown us how fast it is to pool capital. So these things can start, nearly instantaneously. Example, we opened up Neon, which is a metaverse DAO, just last week, and about $20 million worth of capital was pooled in 40 minutes. And people are deploying, at this point, hundreds of thousands of dollars per week, purchasing different metaverse-related assets. So it's super exciting, it's super fun, and I think the best part about it is you get to work with work together with people that you meet online, people that you have relationships with, and work together towards a common purpose. So you don't even need to know who these folks are, right? You may just know them by their handle. They may be going by a pseudonym, and you kind of get moving.
Yeah, we're taking a separate but very important approach, which is progressive decentralization to the NFT DAO that we're building. And for us, it's actually kind of very important to know who our members are. So we do KYC AML because we do have to navigate the real world as a legal entity. So for us, we definitely have limitations and things of that nature. So for us, Jeff Walden from 816Z, he wrote this awesome paper on progressive decentralization. And what we're taking is an 18 to 24 month roadmap to decentralize our DAO, but we're doing it correctly to have preventative hygiene. As you know, the SEC and the IRS have two completely different views on what NFTs are and what Ethereum is, and so those implications are kind of muddy right now. And so for us, it's making sure that we do things intentionally around that progress and making sure that all of our members are protected in some way, shape, or form, so that all of our assets have long-term viability and no one comes in knocking on our door for the wrong reasons. So definitely taking a different approach with a similar mindset.
For me, the most important thing is to allow your DAO framework to grow with your community. Like, you might start with 3 people, you might not, like a DAO for, as a seed is very different from a DAO once it gets to 10, 20, 50, and then like hundreds, thousands. So you don't necessarily need like the 10,000 person DAO structure if there's 3 of you. So a lot of it is just important, is like, defining the culture, defining what you're rallying around, and then picking things that allow you to like plug and play governance as you see fit. I've been playing a lot, I'm more on the dev side, I've been playing around with like different Zodiac modules lately where you can make a multisig and then transition it to a DAO. Not a certain framework shell, I like to try every framework, but yeah, just modularity and allowing DAOs to grow with your community as it grows is really important.
Cool. Incredible. So, I mean, I think that there's obviously several NFT DAOs that exist here. I mean, when you're thinking about collecting in general, what really do you feel like is like this benefit to group buying versus just individual buying? Like, what really is the value of a DAO and a community and collective collecting?
Yeah, I can speak to us particularly. We definitely want to bring people from mainstream into the NFT community and the metaverse. So we're bringing people who want exposure to NFTs but don't really have the time to spend on Twitter, OpenSea, and Discord. So we're looking at DeFi maxis, finance people, people in the real world that are also creating a lot of value, but they actually want exposure. So that's really where we're looking at specifically. Yes, we do have members who are degens and NFT heads, but our goal is to really start reaching into the outer layers of society to start bringing them in and providing them that exposure. And so when we speak to that of like, how do we how do we make decisions on collections? For us, we have a framework that's very interesting. What in our governance, we have our principles state that anything below $100,000 of USD value, kind of like there is our leadership that's being able to take those decisions on behalf of the DAO. And so anything above $100,000 of equivalent value, we actually do put it up for vote. So that way that the responsibility under 100,000 is on the leadership, and there's that entrustment so we can move quickly and fast. For example, like we were able to find a plasma bear, an X-copy plasma bear that was like somebody paper-handed for 2.9 ETH. And so with that ability, instead of having to put it up for a vote and waiting for consensus, we were able to have the ability to move quickly, execute on it, secure that asset. And then anything else that goes beyond 100K, then we do give ourselves that governance to be able to make those long-term decisions with the collective involved. That's our approach to collecting NFTs at NFT DAO.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great approach. I mean, fundamentally, when you're in a DAO, you're with a group of people that are interested in a certain topic. It could be generalized, like Flamingo is focused more broadly across the entire NFT ecosystem. There's other DAOs that are now becoming more specialized around certain types of NFTs, certain areas of the NFT ecosystem. But you're doing it with friends and folks that you have developed a relationship with. And that provides a curation layer on top of that. And you kind of start to feel a palpable energy around certain projects. Flamingo DAO is fortunate enough, we have about 218 CryptoPunks. And the reason that we decided to purchase it was everybody was excited about it, right? And this was months and months ago before we saw a huge run-up in price. But the ecosystem and the community around Flamingo, we were geeked out, right? We were diving into the punks community. We were already parts of the punk ecosystem, and we kind of felt the special energy that I think you feel around lots of NFT communities. And that is a really special feeling. And we've been able to look at other communities around the ecosystem and spot either similar trends, either because that they're supported by wonderful folks, there's a lot of energy or great ideas coming with it, or we just think it's aesthetically pleasing. So another example there for us, we were some of the first early supporters of Art Blocks. We thought that that was just an amazing community. We were able to support artists that we believed in. We liked the work that they were doing, and you could kind of feel this palpable energy in the different channels where members of Flamingo communicated. And I think that that's really the core of NFTs, right? It's about the art, it's about the communities that are supporting it, it's about the people, and it's about what we're moving into, which is this next generation of content creation together. And doing that as part of a broader community and through a DAO is just really special that you're able to be kind of a part of that. So that's kind of our approach, along with, I think, a lot of the points that you just mentioned, Alejandro, which are great. Like, how do you move fast? How do you begin to make decisions kind of collectively? There's lots of interesting challenges there as well.
I think on a very basic level, it just comes down to enabling collective ownership. As far as, like, personally, I can't afford a $4 million piece of fine art, but with a group of people, it is something that's possible. So, I think on a very simple level, it comes down to that.
Yo, I just gotta say that Pleaser DAO has been doing some amazing shit in the space. Like, they just purchased the Wu-Tang album, and they've been able to move really quickly, and they've been able to really move the needle for DAOs and NFTs in the mainstream space. So I just want to give you guys a huge shout out for that. You guys have been doing amazing work on that.
Thank you, man. Wu is for the people.
Let's do it.
Amazing, cool. So I know people probably have like burning DAO questions, and we just wanted to give the audience an opportunity to ask, honestly, whatever they want for the last like 10, 12 minutes here. So yeah, I mean, just raise your hand if you have a question. I think there's one there. Thank you.
The first hand up right here. Is that the Wu-Tang album, like the Silver Rings one?
Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. Actually listened to it for the first time yesterday. It was amazing.
Hi, this is Josh. It's a question for Aaron or Priyanka. In regard to, so I was at Marfa and you kind of explained how Flamingo was set up in a corporate way. I was just curious if you could go into, like, more recently how the neon raise went and how it was structured and allocated from a legal perspective.
Yeah, so they're all great question. They're all structured in a similar way. So we want to do things in a way that we think for the long run will work in the U.S. So all of our DAOs are anchored in a limited liability company that's organized in Delaware. There's certain constraints, like Alejandro, we do KYC and accreditation checks. I don't personally think, at least with accreditation, that's necessary, but I don't think we're ready yet in the US to get to that point. So we're taking a slow and prudential approach. That's because we think the work that's being created by the NFT community is timeless and priceless. We think that this is a moment, if you want to build a collection that's going to last, if you want to build something that will stand the test of time, you're going to have to do it in a way where you're willing to stand up and kind of take that mantle in the US to do things the right way. So all the DAOs that we've supported, all the DAOs I mentioned before, they all have a similar construct. And our goal, a lot like Coinbase, is to press in the responsible way in order to bring this to the masses. And I think that that's an important role. I think there's other experiments that are going to just more YOLO it. We're going to cheer them on, but I think you need both in order to develop a healthy ecosystem around DAOs and a healthy ecosystem around NFT DAOs in particular.
Hi, my name is Isaac. I'm curious how your thinking has evolved and how you've iterated as you've set up multiple projects like this, and if there are mistakes that you have made that the rest of us could learn from, and if there are kind of templatized ways to do this in a straightforward fashion. Thank you.
It's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, we have a template, right? We started with one DAO about a year and a half ago. That was the LAO. All the DAOs we have a similar structure to them. There's about $200 million worth of Ether that's been contributed to the different DAOs. I think NFTs plus DAOs is where we're going to see the most DAO-related activity. I think A, because there's a natural intuition to collect together, like we were talking before, and B, I just think that in 2 to 3, 4 years, crypto is going to be predominantly about NFTs. I think many of you may agree with that if you're here at this conference. I think lots of other folks in the crypto ecosystem are still stuck in DeFi land, and I'm sure that they're going to intersect at some point, but I think it's going to tilt heavily towards NFTs because they're fun, right? They're fun, they're simple, people understand them, they're community driven off the bat, there's a natural synergy with DAOs. But I do think, there are going to be ways to standardize and templatize it, which is great. And there's lots of lessons that we've learned. Some of the things Alejandro was talking about before, they're right. Like, how do you move fast? Those are tough challenges. Some of that's technical points, which I think Isaac and others are really focused on too. Lots of tooling needs to be built. But I do think in the next couple quarters, this is what we're working on. You'll be able, from a Discord, to thumbs up something and do like a group purchase, like sweep a floor. So we already have things like that running on our test nets, and I think once we go through the mechanical processes related to it, a lot of this tooling will be available to a greater group of people.
Yeah, just to chime in on some lessons learned, and to your point about like tooling and stuff like that, I think there's a lot of really interesting things about treasury allocation that are coming out. So often you'll have your DAO with your primary treasury, but it's like, maybe it moves slower, like what Alejandro was saying, but perhaps you want to have a DAO that funds different initiatives. So something that I've seen, it's just been really fun to participate in. A lot of the DAOs that I'm in will set a budget of like, $10,000 a month towards a certain project, and then use things like Coordinate to actually transfer funds. So it just says, we want this thing built. This is your budget. You pool of people that are working on this decide amongst yourselves how to compensate each other based on who is doing what work. And then the primary DAO can have a lot of these different initiatives. The primary DAO treasury can fund a lot of these different initiatives, but all the different like circles that are working on different projects can figure out amongst themselves and self-direct. So I think that's been a really fun tooling experiment and learning.
I think for us, it's more of guidance versus mistakes. But like, if you're looking at a legal DAO that actually navigates the real world, I would say there's always time to do it right. Make sure that you have your legal team making sure that they are highlighting and crossing over anything and doing the due diligence properly. And the second part, I would really just say communication, communication, communication. And the last one is transparency. I think if you bring extra communication and transparency to your members, no matter what you do, whether it's mistakes or not, they're forgiven. It's when you put things in the darkness, when you hide things from your members, that's when the retribution starts coming in. So communication, 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 and transparency.
I think at the end of the day, everybody that's sitting here is trailblazing. So there is no operational playbook for how to operate a DAO, in my opinion, right? Like, we're all learning on the go. It's freaking hard as hell to basically, get a lot of people to collaborate and organize people. So, we're all learning on the go and we're trying to figure this out, and it's just an exciting space to be in. And as far as kind of like this, to me, is kind of like the future of what organizations should look like, and something that, now technology enables. So it's super exciting, but there is no playbook.
I just want to add something. I firmly believe that DAOs are eating the world. I think DAOs are going to be more powerful than nation states, are going to be more powerful than corporations, because they're like hydras, right? When we think about Greek mythology, like, you can cut off a certain part of a DAO and then it'll just keep coming back up. And the pooling of the resources, like, think about what Aaron just said. They've been able to pool over $200 million, right? Flamingo is going to be the first DAO that's going to hit billion, if not $10 billion valuation based on their collection alone, right? We're thinking about 5 years. That's incredible power. That's incredible, massive market capitalization that they can utilize for that factor. So if you're thinking about DAOs, it's an amazing, and you're still very early, like incredibly early to the adoption of it, to the creation of it, and the tooling, like Aaron was mentioning, and Isaac, is just gonna get better and iterate in an optimized way, and it's just gonna, Moore's law is just gonna come in quicker than we ever expected, and I feel like it's just gonna be one day we're just gonna be able to right-click, save, yes, done, boom, and it'll be super simple to run a DAO. So bear with us as we build and come get involved, and just know that what we're building today is going to change the landscape of every level of organization, from governments to organizations to corporations. So it's a very exciting time to be in DAOs.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. There is no playbook yet. people need to figure this out together, but there's a lot of super interesting sub-stories in DAOs that are pretty fascinating. Like, for example, with some of our DAOs, we've seen people, all they're doing, they quit their jobs, they're spending their time working, helping out on our DAOs because they have no boss, they're interested in the topics, they're making a living from it. They can flow in and out, work anytime they want. They want to leave for 2 weeks, nobody cares. They want to dial in super heavily for a week, that's great. There's no self-direction, there's no employment contracts. It's absolutely fascinating, and I just think that that is the future work. It's all these different people from around the globe working together about something that they're passionate about with a lot less structure. I mean, what could be better than that? And who wants to work at a hierarchical corporation where you have a boss, processes, OKRs? It's pretty fucking awful. And instead, you could work in a fluid organization where you get to work on things that you care about with people that share a common interest. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the tech side. We still have to write this playbook together. So we don't have the answers. It's really a community effort. But it's super fascinating. And it feels a lot like NFTs, at least to me, like in 2017, 2018. The technical tooling is coming into focus, and I think at some point, it's just going to go vertical.
Yeah, I got triggered by OKRs, so sorry for those in the audience. I think, I don't know, go for whatever.
Just a quick question. Thanks for a great panel, really appreciate it, and I agree, we are all trailblazers here. Just a quick question on, I want to implement DAO for my own project, but the concerns about like, when you fractionalize something, is there any securities concern or any kind of scrutiny from SEC under like a Wyoming LLC DAO structure? I mean, anything that we should be aware, especially as like American, founders and issuers?
For me, fractionalization, I'm staying as far away as possible from it right now. Until there is some form of ruling or some form of guidance from one of these alphabet organizations, I'm really staying away from it. All it takes is for one bad actor to ruin it for everybody else. And so for that, from fractionalization, from a US entity standpoint, for me personally, for our DAO, we are going to be more on the cautious, take our time, observe what's going on, and then we'll act once there's a little bit of guidance. But I'll let Aaron speak to that a little bit as well.
I just want to chime in. Fractionalization is actually why I went towards DAOs. I was like, oh, fractionalization would be cool. We can do group ownership. But then I was just like terrified by every time we got on the call, and they were like, do you want to move to a country with no extradition to the US? Like, no, I want to live in the US. So to me, DAOs allow, like the way that these are structured, it's like, it's more like, you have shares of this thing that gives you a horizontal slice of the larger thing. For some, I'm going to stop talking so that the actual legal people can talk, but to me, like DAOs made me feel more comfortable than straight up fractionalization.
I think you summarized it. I think it's too soon to tell. Fractionalization is super fascinating as a concept at a technical level. I do think long run, at some point, the legal system's going to have to grapple with it. Where it lands in the US, I think it's too soon to tell, but that's probably where the line's going to be drawn around NFTs. I just think it's a pretty clear line. At some point, regulation is going to come here. If you're collecting digital art, that's, in my mind at least, pretty clearly a commodity. Once you start creating more complex financial products with it, I can imagine some of the alphabet soup of regulators raising an eyebrow, if not a hammer down on that at some point.
So probably the only DAO here that has kind of played around in this space, and I think once again we're trailblazing, and I guess kind of like some of the examples that I would share with people of companies that have had similar playbooks. Let's talk about Uber, let's talk about YouTube, let's talk about Airbnb, let's talk about all these companies, right? Like they were also trailblazing in their early days. They did some things that were believed to be, kind of like breaching lines of regulation, and I think it's a hot topic, but we're here to kind of push the envelope a little bit and see what we can do, and hopefully, we're putting our neck on the line so these guys can continue to push the envelope with us as well.
So if membership in a DAO, and if this DAO fractionalizes all of their assets, and by buying into the DAO you have a fraction of all of these assets, can't that be seen as a security? And if it is seen as a security by the government, how does that change regulation?
mean, a lot of DAOs just are like accrediting their members and like just and just treating it as such. But yeah, so it's not always just about pretending you're not doing something, but they're like doing it within some framework of legality.
Yeah, for us, I think what's really important is that we're navigating our DAO under the syndicate laws. We're more of a club, a collective gathering, saying, hey, we all have the same interests. We just want to collect. We want to see what we can do in a pool of capital. And nothing different than a couple housewives coming together and getting some Tupperware club going on, you know. So that's the guidance that we're doing and we're taking. So that approach for us is more as a syndicate club that has similar collective interests.
NFT potluck. All right, on that note, I don't think we have time for any questions, but I'm sure you could come up to anyone here and just ask your questions. So we really appreciate you tuning in. Feel very confident on the future of DAOs here, especially in the NFT space. And you guys are all trailblazers here, so super excited. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.